Let's watch this video. Let me share my screen with you so you don't have a 30-second
Yeah,
delay.
There is a hidden force more dangerous than evil itself, one that Dietrich Bonhoeffer believed was responsible for immense destruction during World War II. Unlike evil, this force cannot be reasoned with, exposed, or even fought directly. It spreads silently, rendering people blind to truth and immune to logic. That force is stupidity. But why did Bonhoeffer see stupidity as a greater threat than evil? Why did he describe it not just as an intellectual failure, but as a moral and social crisis? In this video, I will break down Bonhoeffer's insights, helping you recognize the signs of stupidity in others, and perhaps even in yourself.
It's like, I would say that stupidity is probably like in two different classes. There is stupidity that you cannot, like, you could say that, oh, I didn't know, it's stuff like that. But then there's stupidity where you absolutely refuse to see the truth in things.
I actually know who Bonhoeffer is a little bit. I don't know if he's gonna go into detail about the person behind it, but I guess I can give a couple of historic context if you're interested.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, he was born in like the early 20th century, and he lived during most of it, and he was German actually. So he lived during that one regime with the funny mustache man.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in 1933, he was one of the first like philosopher of Germany to speak against funny mustache man, and he did a lot of siding with the resistance and all of that, funny anti-establishment stuff, and that actually landed him in one of the funny work camp for all the family, where he ended up tragically passing away just before the funny mustache man was gone. So it's a bit of a sad story, but yeah, for historical context, this guy was very much is probably gonna compare actually idiocracy to the funny mustache man regime. Probably, I'm guessing. He
Oh,
was a very Christian theology kind of guy.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer, born in February 1906, was a German Lutheran pastor, neo-Orthodox theologian, anti-Nazi dissident, and resistance fighter. For years, he tried to change minds. He spoke out against growing hatred, blind obedience, and the way people turned a blind eye to the cruelty happening around them. He believed that if he could just make them see, just make them understand, they would wake up. But no matter how much evidence he presented, no matter how clear the truth was, people refused to listen.
it's like a lot of people want to remain ignorant. They do not want to see the cruelty of the world. They don't want to see how disgusting people can be. If people have the privilege to remain ignorant to everything bad that happens, they would rather stay like that.
The issue that arises is that sometimes like there's both the side that we can't really blame people sometimes, because yeah, the world's horrible, and I'm not sure everyone is capable of like living with the uncomfortable truth of how horrible it is. And some people are just not psychologically capable of dealing with such information. And some people are just live better if they don't know, and like can't really blame that.
It's like, even with the access to the internet that we have, we are able to see just like atrocity after atrocity. People again will just rationalize it with, okay, that's happening over there, stuff like that can't happen over here. Which is the benefit that America has, because they just get to look at everything through a TV screen or through just anything that isn't in person. I could see a lot of people, as soon as they are faced with the reality, if it happens in front of them, a lot of them will either buckle, hide, or some will go to the extreme and just self exit out of the situation as well.
One evening, after years of resisting the regime, he returned home to find his father waiting for him with a heavy heart. Two men were in his room. They had come to take him away. Locked in a prison cell, Bonhoeffer had nothing but time to think. He had watched his country, once a land of poets and thinkers, descend into a mob of cowards and criminals. He had seen friends, neighbors, even intellectuals surrender their morality, not because they were all evil, but because they had stopped thinking. And then he realized the real enemy wasn't malice. It was stupidity. There were reasons he considered this a greater threat than evil, which I will now discuss. Evil, according to Bonhoeffer, can be confronted. It can be exposed, fought, and even defeated. There is always a way to resist it because at its core, evil knows what it is. Even the worst of people deep down recognize that what they are doing is wrong. This is why evil carries within itself the seed of its own destruction. It leaves behind a sense of unease, a lingering guilt that can be exploited and overturned. But stupidity? Stupidity is immune. Immune to logic, blind to reason, and deaf to truth. It does not engage, it simply refuses to see. You can argue with a malicious person, but you cannot argue with a stupid one because they do not recognize facts. They dismiss them. They do not debate. They mock. And most dangerously, they are utterly convinced of their own rightness.
Like, I'm not going into any specific political sphere, but just politics overall. You could say it on either side, they will just be steadfast in what they believe. Some of them on the more extreme side of either side are just going to be like, no, I'm right. There's nothing you can do to change my mind. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to deflect, say that you're stupid, and then move on.
I can tell you he's very German indeed.
Again, it's like you can't just pin it on one side. You could say it's on the extremes of both sides. Because
honestly, you can see people who blindly believe in anything the thought leaders say on either side. Like, that's not like if you think you're immune, like, you're probably most affected by it. You're actually pretty stupid yourself. So please don't do that.
I just say that I'm ignorant on politics overall. I don't say that one side is this or one side is that. I just speak on what I know. That's about it.
This is what makes stupidity more dangerous than malice. Malice can be countered, but stupidity is impervious. Martin Luther King Jr. said something very similar. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. The most terrifying aspect of stupidity is that it often operates unconsciously. People who act foolishly do not even realize it. They believe they are right. They cling to their views with such certainty that no argument, no evidence, no rational explanation can shake them.
There's nothing worse than a fool who think he's right. I think is an old German idiom or something. So yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Instead of questioning their beliefs, they double down, becoming even more rigid. As Mark Twain famously said, "Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience." We have all encountered different kinds of stupid people who use dismissive slogans whenever we try to engage with them. They say things like whatever or I don't care, their way of avoiding the reality of their own stupidity. It is frustrating, much like dealing with a narcissist, because they will never change.
Man, that's like the state of Twitter.
Yeah, that's actually infuriating. That's what I see all the time. It's like appeal to triviality, where it's like, who cares? Well, I care. Why are you even arguing if you don't care? I do.
Honestly, because some people like to argue for argument's sake, but they don't even bring anything to the table.
Here I am speaking very complexly about personal experience, belief, professional experience, all the reading I've done, all the knowledge I've accumulated, and here they are. Well, I just don't care. Well, fuck you then. I do.
It's like, this is why the art of debate is just almost completely dead. Nobody wants to debate. They just want to argue, and if they think they can't win, they'll just insult you, and then they'll just, like, continue to insult you until you disengage with the conversation, because they feel like they have to have the last word on it.
But the danger of stupidity extends beyond the individual level. It spreads within society like a sickness. It infiltrates groups, movements, and systems that demand obedience. The power of one depends on the stupidity of the many. This is why mass stupidity so often accompanies rising authoritarianism. People do not lose their intelligence. They surrender it. They give up their independence in exchange for belonging. They stop thinking critically and start repeating whatever they are told. And once a person has surrendered their mind, there is no limit to what they can be made to do. They will commit evil and never see it as evil. They will spread lies and call it truth. They will destroy lives, convinced they are on the right side of history. This is why stupidity is not just frustrating, it is dangerous. It is a weapon in the hands of those who know how to use it. And perhaps the most chilling realization? You cannot fix it with reason. To combat it, we must first understand the true nature of stupidity.
You know, a lot of people don't realize how horrifying authoritarianism is. Because, like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's like, from how I see a lot of people write it, like in, for example, fan fictions, or how they want to live under an authoritarian words, you know what I mean. Anyways, it's a very
authoritarian regime.
Yes. It's a very romanticized version of it. Even in movies that depict it, very romanticized in a, like, similar to, like, true monarchy as well.
Stupidity does not question itself. It does not feel doubt or shame. It moves forward with absolute confidence, and in doing so, it becomes an unstoppable force in service of whatever it has chosen to follow. Bonhoeffer saw this firsthand. He lived in a nation once known for its poets and philosophers, Germany, the land of Goethe, Kant, and Beethoven. And yet he watched as it turned into a nation of cowards and criminals. He saw ordinary people, many of them intelligent and educated, surrender their ability to think and instead blindly follow the Nazi regime. This is why Bonhoeffer argued that stupidity is not an intellectual defect but a moral one. A person can be brilliant in thought yet utterly foolish in action. Consider Martin Heidegger, one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century, who, despite his intellect, pledged loyalty to the Nazi Party and remained unrepentant until his death in 1976. He was smart, but he was also deeply stupid, as according to Bonhoeffer. By contrast,
I mean, it's like how people say that some are book smart but not street smart.
Yeah, basically. I am book smart, but I don't know about street smart.
It's like everyone is smart in specific things. Other people are stupid in very specific things as well. Because no matter what people say, you cannot be good at everything.
A person can be intellectually slow, yet profoundly wise, moral, and kind. Intelligence and wisdom are not the same. Stupidity, as Bonhoeffer saw it, is not a lack of intelligence. It is a failure of moral courage. And one is not born stupid. One becomes stupid. How that happens is what I will discuss next. Stupidity is a state of mind that arises when a person surrenders their responsibility to think. It is not an inborn trait, but a transformation, a condition that people allow themselves to fall into. This transformation is not merely personal, it is social. Stupidity thrives in groups, where independent thought is discouraged, where people simply follow orders, conform, and submit to prevailing narratives without question. Bonhoeffer observed how the Nazi regime turned ordinary people into unthinking followers. They were not inherently evil, nor were they necessarily unintelligent.
I mean, you could probably categorize this also under mass hysteria as well, just in a, granted that's a little more extreme and sudden. And like with the Salem witch trials, because, like, you know, there were never actually witches, it was just people throwing around accusations, neighbor blaming neighbor, family
And
members
those were
selling out family members
are
and everything.
those are generally agreed upon to have been grossly exaggerated over the years.
Yeah. It's like it's been exaggerated over the years, but still something that happened.
It did happen to, like, I think hundreds, thousands of people, but you know, when you hear some of the stories, there's like tens, hundreds of thousands. No, it was a thing, but it's been exaggerated and mystified over the years.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it was just people telling on one another to get their petty revenge and more than some kind of gross mass hysteria about witches.
Mm-hmm.
But they stopped questioning. They let go of their ability to discern truth from falsehood. They became tools of a greater agenda. Bonhoeffer described this phenomenon as almost a sociological law. A similar transformation was depicted by George Orwell in 1984, where Big Brother brainwashed people to the point of limiting their very thoughts. The regime did not just control their actions, it made them stupid so they could no longer think properly. Bonhoeffer made the same observation. When power rises, stupidity spreads. Under the influence of authority, whether political or ideological, many people willingly relinquish their inner independence. They accept the slogans, the propaganda, the oversimplified explanations, and they no longer see the world for what it is. And this is where stupidity becomes most dangerous. It is stubborn, yet passive. The stupid person does not think for themselves, yet they are fiercely convinced they are right. When confronted with facts or logic, they do not reconsider. They resist. You are not dealing with a person. You are dealing with the slogans and catchphrases that have taken possession of them. This is why Bonhoeffer argued that stupidity is harder to combat than evil. A stupid person will repeat lies even after they have been disproven.
And we see this a lot with cults.
And Twitter.
And Twitter. And Reddit.
They will cling to falsehoods because they are no longer thinking for themselves. And this is precisely why a stupid person cannot simply be instructed or argued out of their stupidity. They must be liberated. Until that happens, debate is pointless. But there is a way to avoid falling into this seemingly innocent trap. If stupidity is not an intellectual deficiency, but a form of mental enslavement, then how can one avoid it? How can a person ensure they do not fall into the trap of blind conformity? This is what I will discuss point by point. Bonhoeffer warns that people become stupid when they give up their ability to question, analyze, and think independently. The first step to avoiding stupidity is to refuse to stop thinking. Always ask questions. Challenge authority when necessary. Do not accept something as true just because it is widely believed. If an idea cannot withstand scrutiny, then it is not worth believing. Stupidity is a social phenomenon. It thrives in environments where people conform without thinking. Whenever you find yourself agreeing with a group simply because it is easier, stop and ask yourself, am I thinking for myself, or am I just going along with the crowd? History has shown that when large groups of people stop questioning, disaster follows. Do not let the comfort of belonging override the necessity of truth. This same mentality was criticized by Friedrich Nietzsche, who called it herd mentality. According to both Bonhoeffer and Nietzsche, anyone who seeks to become a true intellectual, or Nietzsche's Übermensch, must reject blind conformity.
Man, I think everyone on Twitter should listen to these points because they're so simple. But some people just make it seem like it's as hard as like ripping out your own nails. I don't know. I always thought that free thinking was just like a very simple thing that people do. But as I got older, it just seems like people do not want to think for themselves. They just want to be catered to.
To be fair, it's pretty hard thinking for yourself at times.
It's fair. LumLum common sense is no longer common. You dubbed it rare sense. It's sad. It's really fucking sad. Ugh, I don't know.
Stupidity is often the result of external influences, propaganda, misinformation, and emotional manipulation. Leaders who rely on stupidity use tactics designed to bypass critical thinking. They appeal to emotions rather than reason. They promote simplistic explanations for complex problems. They discourage independent thought and label dissent as dangerous. If an idea is presented in a way that discourages questioning, it is likely designed to manipulate, not to inform. Stupid people gravitate towards simple, black and white explanations, but reality is complex. The truth is often inconvenient, uncomfortable, and difficult. If an answer sounds too easy, it probably is. If a leader tells you that all your problems have a single cause, they are lying. If a movement demands unquestioning loyalty, it is dangerous. Real wisdom comes from embracing nuance and resisting the urge to oversimplify. Bonhoeffer believed that stupidity cannot be overcome through instruction alone. It requires liberation. People trapped in a system of manipulation and conformity must first be freed externally before they can free their minds. But true wisdom comes from internal liberation, breaking free from fear, blind loyalty, and unquestioning obedience. The only way to avoid stupidity is to commit to lifelong intellectual and moral independence. This was Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity, a warning to all of us. The world today is filled with misinformation, herd mentalities, and blind loyalty to political figures, ideologies, and narratives that discourage critical thought. If we do not actively fight for independent thinking, we will not just be battling stupidity, we will be ruled by it. The choice is ours. Stay alert, stay critical, stay free.
Well, see, that was very informative now, wasn't it, guys?